Hello, welcome to my channel. So today we are going to talk about another case study. Okay, this one I already did it without a literature review, but this one will be an in-depth study on the literature review for these types of case study, which is on breech. The first question was mention 3 types of breech presentation. Then in the picture in front of you, what type of breech presentation is it? Then what you do for antenatally. Mention 4 risk factors for this condition. Then if she presented in her 37th week with this presentation, what would you do for her? Okay. Then for literature review, this is a brief presentation is when the fetus presents buttocks or feet first rather than head first, which is the commonest is known as a cephalic presentation. Okay. So these are the bridge positions. So the types of bridge positions we can have where, like we said, the fetus presents bottom down, and there are 3 main types. So we have a complete one. So this is a complete one here, where both legs are flexed at the hips and knees, and the fetus appears to be sitting or sitting cross-legged. That's a complete one. So this is a complete one. Then we have a flank one, which is an extended, also known as a extended breech, where both legs are flexed at the hip and extended at the knee. So this is the most common type of breech presentation. Then we have the footling breech, where one or both of the legs extended at the hip, so the foot is a presenting part. Okay. Then approximately 20% of babies are breech at 28 weeks. Then the majority of these revert to a cephalic presentation, which is head down, spontaneously, and only 3% are breech at term. Okay, those are some of the things you have to know on the types of breech. Okay, then following we can have the etiology and risk factors. So the risk factors, so most breech presentations seem to be chance occurrence. However, in up to 15 cases, it may be due to fetal uterine causes. So we have the following risk factors. So for the uterine risk factors, we can have multiplicity, uterine malformation such as Licentiate uterus, we can have fibroids and placenta previa. Then fetal anomalies, we can have fetal risk factors. We can have prematurity, macrosomia, polyhydramnios, raised amniotic fluid index, twin pregnancy or eye order, then abnormalities such as in anencephaly. Okay. Then in terms of clinical features, of course, the diagnosis of breech presentation is limited. Is of limited significance prior to the 32 to 35 weeks, as the fetus is likely to revert to a cephalic presentation before delivery. Then you have to know that breech presentation is usually identified on clinical examination upon palpating the abdomen. So the round fetal head can be felt in the upper part of the uterus, and an irregular mass, which are fetal buttocks and legs in the pelvis. Then breech presentation can also be suspected if the fetal heart is auscultated higher on the maternal abdomen. Okay. Then in around 20% of cases, the presentation is not diagnosed until labor. So this can present with signs of fetal distress such as meconium stained liquor. So even when you are practicing, if you are called to review a breech presentation patient, and you find that there is actually meconium stained liquor there. Okay, for breech presentation, that's one of the commonest findings. The meconium stain is one of the commonest findings on VE. So in vaginal examination, the sacrum or foot may be felt through the cervical opening. Okay, especially bearing in mind that actually the anal region is more close to the more close uh, to the opening. So that's why the meconium staining is actually one of the things you might actually be called on to review. Okay. Then in terms of differential diagnosis, you can have an oblique lie where the fetus is positioned diagonally in the uterus with the head or buttocks in one of the iliac fossa. And you can have a transverse lie where the fetus is positioned across the uterus with the head on one side of the pelvis and the buttocks on the other side. So the shoulder is usually the presenting part. And then the other important diagnosis to consider is an unstable lie, So this is where the presentation of the fetus changes from day to day and can include breech presentation. Then an unstable eye is more likely if there is known polyhydramnios or if the woman is multiparous, especially when there is polyhydramnios. Then investigations of course any suspected breech presentation should be confirmed by an ultrasound, which can also identify the type of breech, whether it's flexed, extended, or footling. Then it can also reveal any fetal or uterine abnormalities that may predispose to breech presentation. Then in terms of management, usually we can separate them in terms of the management plans, where we talk of external cephalic version, cesarean section, or vaginal breech birth. Okay, so in terms of external cephalic version, so the external cephalic version is just a manipulation. It's just a manipulation of the fetus to a cephalic presentation through the maternal abdomen. So this, if successful, can enable an attempt at a vaginal delivery. Then it has an approximate 50% success rate and a 40% success rate in prime-parous women and a 60% success rate in multiparous women. In contrast, only 10% of breech presentation spontaneously revert to cephalic prime-parous in prime-parous women. Then ECV, which is external cephalic version, should be offered from 37 weeks in prime-parous women. Then ECV can be offered from 36 gestation. Then in terms of complications of ICV include the transient fetal heart abnormalities, which revert to normal, of course, and rare complications such as persistent heart rate abnormalities, for instance, fetal bradycardia and a placental abruption. Then the risk of the woman needing an emergency cesarean section is around 1 out of 200. So of course, after the baby should be in breech presentation. That's number one. Then the doctor also feels the baby's head, so you clinically know that this is a breech presentation, and you know where the head is going to be placed. Then you have to turn around the baby from breech to cephalic. Okay, but this is usually done by a consultant. Okay, if you've never attempted this, then don't attempt. Okay, so this is usually done by an experienced consultant, if at all not even done. So there is no consensus on the contraindication to ECV. So women should be informed that ECV after one cesarean section has no greater risk compared to ECV performed on an scarred uterus. Okay, then for C-section, if the external cephalic version is unsuccessful, contraindicated or declined by the woman, of course, one of the current UK guidelines advise an elective C-section. Okay, then and in most of our cases also, we usually do if it's a prime gravida, we usually do an elective CS. Okay, if it's previous CS also, we do an elective CS as well. We don't decide want to put the woman through the strain of labor in a breech presentation. Okay, so this is based on evidence that perinatal morbidity and mortality is high in cases of planned vaginal breech birth compared to cesarean. Then in term babies, compared in cases of planned vaginal breech birth in term babies, then there is no significant difference in maternal outcomes between the two groups. Then the evidence for preterm babies is less clear, but generally CS is preferred due to increased aid to abdominal circumference ratio in preterm babies. Okay. Then in terms of vaginal birth, so the woman may still choose to aim for a vaginal breech delivery. Additionally, a small proportion of women with breech presentation present in advanced labor, with vaginal delivery the only option. Okay. Then the contraindication to vaginal breech delivery is footling breech, as the foot and legs can actually slip through to a non-fully dilated cervix, and the shoulders and the head can become trapped. Okay, so the most important advice when conducting vaginal breech is the hand off the breech technique. So this is because putting traction on the baby during delivery can cause the fetal head to extend, getting it trapped during delivery. Then the fetal sacrum does need to be maintained anteriorly, which can be done by holding the fetal pelvis. Then, however, occasionally the baby does not deliver spontaneously. Some specific maneuvers can be required. So, the most important advice is the handoff breech. Then, if the baby does not spontaneously deliver, then some maneuvers have to be taken in. Okay, so we can have flexing the fetal knees to enable delivery of the legs. We can have using the love set maneuver to rotate the body and deliver the shoulders. We can have using the Mauriceau-Smellie-Veit maneuver to deliver the head by flexion. So delivery of the aftercoming head can be challenging, but if the Mauriceau-Smellie-Veit maneuver fails, forceps can be used. So how is the Mauriceau-Smellie-Veit maneuver, MSV maneuver? So this is more of a jaw flexion and retraction. Okay, so here the baby is allowed to rest on the left supinated forearm of the obstetrician with the limbs hanging on the side. Then the left index and the middle finger is placed on the malar bones, while the right index and ring fingers are placed on the responsive shoulders and the middle finger on the suboccipital region. Okay, as you can see in the picture. So one mistake is that don't put your fingers in the baby's mouth. Okay, just put on the malar bones. Then to achieve flexion, traction is now given in a downward and upward direction, and simultaneous suprapubic pressure is maintained by the assistant, which is this one. Okay, until the nape of the neck is visible. Then thereafter the baby is pulled in upward and forward direction so that the face is born, and by depressing the trunk the head is also born. Okay, so this is what we are talking about. So in the picture A, you see that there's pressure being applied by the assistant, and also the obstetrician hand over the baby's shoulders, and the obstetrician hands over the baby's face. So no, don't put in the mouth, please. Okay, then B, you see that after you deliver, after the nape of the neck is visible, then you also deliver on upwardly. Okay, that's in C. Okay, then in terms of complications, so major complications of breech presentation is cord prolapse, where the umbilical cord drops below the presenting part of the baby and becomes compressed. Then the incidence of cord prolapse is 1% in breech presentation compared to 0.5% in cephalic presentations. Then other complications, we can have fetal head entrapment, premature rupture of membranes, birth asphyxia, usually secondary to a delay in delivery, intracranial hemorrhage as a result of rapid compression of the head during delivery. Those are some of the things, and that's the end of the literature review. And for case study answer, so initially we had our case study, so the answers are here. So here comes the answers. So mention the types of breech. From what we learned, the three types of breech: we can have a complete breech, flank breech, and the footling breech. Then in the picture, the type of breech presentation we have is the footling breech. Then what we do for antenatally, of course, we are not necessarily talking about this one, this footling breech, but for someone with a breech delivery or with a breech presentation, what we do for antenatally, of course, it's external cephalic version. Then for risk factors, so risk factors can have prematurity, uterine anomalies such as the septate uterus, fetal anomalies such as hydrocephalus and encephaly, in plier breech, multiple gestation, polydramnios. Okay, then if she presented in at the 7th week with this presentation, what do we do for her? So if she has presented in as the 7th week, then just do a CS. Okay, then that's the end of the tutorial. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell notification, and see you in the next tutorial video. Okay.